we should always be asking why. Newton's third law of motion states that to every action there is an equal and an opposite reaction. In other words, there is always a reason. And in Proverbs 26 verse 2, the Bible says that the curse causeless shall not come. So no heart problem, no heart disease happens without a cause. So why are so many people dying of a heart attack? In fact, one of the first signs that a person has a problem is sudden death. There's not much warning there. But a lot of people today are not used to listening to their body. It's important to listen when the body speaks. And so I'd like to have a look at some of the steps that medicine is taking in an attempt to reduce heart disease. And one of them is to introduce the fat-free diet. Fat-free or low-fat diet. So the fat-free diet and the low-fat diet have become popular probably since about the 1980s. So I was intrigued to know, where did this come from? How did this start? And I discovered that in 1953, a researcher from Minneapolis, he first put forth the theory that fat causes heart disease. I have a book at home, it's called The Great Cholesterol Con by Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, a cardiovascular surgeon. And he states in this book that there is no proof that fat causes heart disease. Interesting. Cardiovascular surgeon. He's performed many bypasses. So he's in there. He's looking at the arteries. In fact, he says in his book that he's got a quote from Ancel Keys that says, "We're still waiting for the proof, and we're pretty sure it'll come." Is that science? That is not true science at all. Science is based on fact, on evidence. And if you look historically at the way people have eaten for thousands of years, there was no real heart disease till the early 1900s. Why? What happened in the early 1900s? They started to extract oil from hard seeds. They started to make cheap oils. You see them in the supermarket shelf. You've got corn oil, canola oil, you've got peanut oil, all in clear plastic bottles, these oils. How do they extract them? They extract them using high heat. They extract them using chemicals. But traditionally, depending where you lived, if you lived in the northern countries, right up north, it'd be fish, it'd be seal, coming down a little bit, probably dairy. This is in the Norway, in Switzerland, Sweden's, Finland, the northern countries. It was usually butter, cream. That's where they usually got their oils. Come down a little bit to the Mediterranean, and we see olive. Olive oil's been used, well, the Bible talks about olive oil. It's been used probably since time dot. Isn't that the same? Olive oil. And when people ate extensively of olive oil, there was no heart disease. And then we come to the tropics. We come to the South Pacific Islands, where the people predominantly have always eaten coconut oils, coconut creams, no heart disease. So what changed? What changed? What changed was the extraction of oil from hard seeds. And that extraction process damages the oil. So now we've got damaged oils. And when damaged oils come into the system, they can damage the endothelium cells that line the arteries. Let me show you how this happens. So here's the blood vessel. And Dr. Carolyn Natasha McBride, she shows that the clearest indication of heart disease is damage to the arterial walls. So here's the damage. What causes the damage? Chemicals. And we are awash with chemicals today. In fact, it is estimated that we're exposed to 100,000 new chemicals every year. We have no say over the neighbour. We have no say really over anywhere else but our home. And we touched on it last night. We touched on how chemicals are contributing to damage in the body, contributing to cancer. Now I want to look at how it's contributing to damage in the arterial walls. And so God, in his wisdom and his mercy, he created the liver. Here's the liver. And the liver lives under your right rib. And your liver is the organ that makes cholesterol. And Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, in his book, The Great Cholesterol Con, he says for the first time, normal levels of a normal vital body substance is being called a disease. That's cholesterol. Did you hear that? Normal vital body substance. Did you know that our sex hormones are made from cholesterol? Did you know that our vitamin D is made from cholesterol? Did you know that cholesterol is what comes along and saves the membrane around every cell when a person drinks alcohol? Because when a person drinks alcohol, that membrane starts to dissolve. And so cholesterol is sent to actually hold it together. As a nutritionist, I have studied the human body in detail, and cholesterol is a very important lipid. And 80% of the cholesterol that the body makes, it makes from glucose. And 20% of the cholesterol that the liver makes is made from fat. Just this piece of information alone tells you it's not the butter on the bread, it's the bread under the butter. You see, the wrong guy's been shot. Fat's been shot because of who it hangs around with. Now, historically, people have always had an amount of fat in their diet. But Ancel Keys came up with this theory in 1953. It actually started to take weight in the 70s and the 80s. He looked at people in the world and he chose people that supported his theory. That's not science. He had to throw the Maasai out. The Maasai eat blood, milk, meat, zero heart disease. Did you hear that? Zero heart disease. So he had to throw them out of his equation. That's not true science. It's not the fat. So what causes heart disease? Is it cholesterol? Let's have a look. So the two main cholesterols that the liver makes is high-density lipoprotein, and high-density lipoprotein is called the good guy because it's the carrier. It carries excess cholesterol back to the liver. LDL, low-density lipoprotein, it's called the bad guy, but the body does not make bad things. It has a purpose. Remember, we were created in the image of God. Every single part of us, including the liver, including its ability to make cholesterol. So what we need to look at is why? What is its purpose? I've already touched on a few purposes. So what does LDL do? It's the repairer and the rebuilder. So whenever there's a need for repair, whenever there's a need for rebuilding, that's where you'll find LDL. LDL has another role, and that is it delivers cholesterol to the brain. And the brain loves cholesterol. You see, every membrane around the cell is 50% fat. Except for the brain cell, it's 70% fat. And that other 30% comes from that little fatty sheath of the arm coming out of the nerve cell.